hydrangea in favor of blue salvia, achillea, and sweet peas. Paul Mellon would later admiringly say of his wife, "The thing I envy about Bunny is that from the age of 5 or 6, her entire life has been occupied by horticulture, by one consuming thing." Described in society columns as a style setter, she embraced such discreet, "I'm so rich I don't have to flaunt it" trends as wearing a gabardine coat lined with mink and customizing her Christian Dior handbags with gold Schlumberger clasps and a hidden gold monogram. Bunny could slip into couture gowns and adorn herself with formidable jewelry. Schlumberger, Verdura, Van Cleef & Arpels, Tiffany's, to play the perfect hostess. Just a few years earlier, she and Paul had entertained the Queen of England and Prince Philip at the farm. Yet she was happiest outdoors, gardening or sketching. In her journals and letters, she wrote lyrically about the fragile opening of a flower petal, seeing the dew at dawn and the change of seasons. In a typical note to her daughter, Eliza, Bunny included a whimsical sketch of wildflowers stretching upward with a description, "This is how I feel the flowers feel on the first day of summer. It is hot, and the air is filled with insect songs. The day stays light, and the colors come together like a summer mist." She savored imperfect perfection. At her behest, trees were pruned into rounded shapes, yet she wanted her grounds to reflect the seasons. Woe to the gardener who raked up apples lying on the ground. The errant staffer was ordered to empty the barrels and put the fruit back. The flagstones on her Cape Cod garden terrace were spaced to allow weeds to artfully spring up. On any of her properties, anything you'd see would be perfect, but it wouldn't seem manipulated. It would seem natural, says Sam Caston, a master weaver who produced fabrics for the Mellons' homes. Bunny wanted to exert control over her environment, yet give the illusion that everything was effortless. Her favorite saying was, "Nothing should be noticed." Bunny started her mornings on Cape Cod with breakfast in bed, delivered by her maid, with a typical menu of coffee, a poached egg, and kedgeree, an Anglo-Indian dish made from fresh fish caught by her staff off her dock. Even the trays were pleasing to the eye. Her carpenters had crafted butterfly-shaped wooden trays at her instruction, and each morning a freshly plucked wildflower was placed in a tiny inkwell as decoration. Her tray had to be perfect, says Linda Evora, one of many generations of Cape Cod housekeepers. We used silver and good china. If she ate in her room at night, she wanted a red rose on her tray. She asked for other flowers earlier in the day. Bunny would linger in her second-floor bedroom, looking at the enticing view, the sailboats traversing the saltwater Sepuit River, the sandy sliver of Dead Neck Island, an uninhabited, pristine barrier island owned by the Mellons, and beyond, the Atlantic Ocean. She enjoyed the morning quiet, a time to read the newspapers, write letters, plan menus, or just daydream. Bunny and her husband had adjoining rooms, and, some gossiped, adjoining lives, and while the couple usually shared lunch and dinner, Paul was an early riser, and they ate breakfast apart. Bunny had divorced her first husband, country newspaper publisher Stacy Lloyd, Jr., with whom she had 2 children, to marry the widowed Paul Mellon in 1948. The son of Treasury Secretary Andrew Mellon, Paul had been ranked by Fortune magazine in 1957 as the 5th wealthiest man in America. A horse breeding and racing aficionado, a reserved gentleman with a wry sense of humor, Paul had spent years in analysis to deal with the debris from his wrenching childhood and his parents' bitter divorce. Able to afford the best, he was analyzed by Carl Jung and consulted Anna Freud. Paul had been in the public eye his entire life. As a student at Yale, when he turned down an invitation to the secret society Skull and Bones to join rival Scroll and Key instead, this momentous decision merited an article in the New York Herald Tribune. Paul Mellon was a great